You know, there's a thin line between kindness and blind tolerance, and many of us don't even realize when we've crossed it. We think that by being kind, by forgiving again and again, by giving people endless chances, we are being noble, we are being strong. But here's the truth. When kindness has no boundaries, it stops being kindness and starts becoming permission. And when you give people permission to cross your limits, to treat you carelessly, to hurt you without consequences, you're not protecting the relationship. You're slowly killing your own self-worth. Let's talk about this honestly. How many times have you said, "It's okay, I'll let it go," when someone disrespected you? How many times have you convinced yourself they didn't mean it, just so you don't have to face the reality that this person actually did mean it? They just knew you wouldn't hold them accountable. You see, people are not blind. They notice what you allow. They notice what you forgive. They notice how much of yourself you're willing to sacrifice. Just keep them comfortable. And eventually, they start mistaking that kindness for weakness. But let's pause here. Is kindness weakness? Absolutely not. Kindness is one of the strongest forces in the world. It takes courage to be kind in a world that sometimes glorifies cruelty. It takes strength to forgive when you could seek revenge. But here's the catch. Kindness without boundaries is not noble. It's dangerous. It doesn't just destroy how others see you, it destroys how you see yourself. Because when you keep letting people get away with hurting you, what you're really telling yourself is, "I don't deserve better." And when you believe that, you teach the world to believe it too. Now let me make this clear. Your kindness should never require you to shrink. It should never require you to stay silent when your dignity is under attack. There is nothing noble about swallowing your pain just so someone else doesn't feel uncomfortable. There is nothing strong about pretending you're okay when inside you know you've been broken into pieces. True kindness is powerful only when it's balanced with self-respect. Otherwise, it's just blind tolerance disguised as love, disguised as peace, disguised as maturity. Think about it. Imagine you have a beautiful piece of jewelry, something priceless, something unique. Would you leave it lying around carelessly for anyone to take? No. You would protect it. You would treasure it. You would make sure only people who understand its value ever get close to it. That's how your kindness should be. It's precious. It's powerful. It's not something to be thrown at people who only see it as a weakness to exploit. And I know sometimes we hold on to people because we think, if I just keep giving, if I just keep forgiving, if I just keep being kind, maybe they'll change. Maybe they'll realize how much I care. But listen to me. The person who wants to change will not need you to break yourself apart just to teach them how. The person who truly values you will never want you to tolerate pain for the sake of their comfort. That's not love. That's manipulation. That's disrespect. I want you to understand something powerful. Every time you say yes to behavior that hurts you, you are silently saying no to yourself. Every time you protect someone else's ego while yours is being shattered, you are teaching them that it's okay to keep treating you this way. And that is how kindness, something that should uplift you, turns into the very reason you're being disrespected. So the real question is, when will you decide to stop confusing tolerance with kindness? When will you realize that your worth is not negotiable? When will you understand that love without respect is not love at all? Because the moment you draw that line, the moment you show the world that your kindness is a choice, not an obligation, that's when people stop taking advantage. That's when they start realizing that you are not weak for forgiving. You are strong for knowing when not to. Your kindness should be a reflection of your strength, not a weapon against your dignity. It should build bridges, not break your spirit. It should inspire others to rise, not give them permission to push you down. And if anyone tries to twist your kindness into a reason to hurt you, that's the exact moment you need to remember who you are and what you deserve. There's a simple truth we often don't like to admit. What you allow is what continues. The cycle of disrespect doesn't begin with someone else's actions. It begins with your silence. It begins with the moment you decide to look the other way, to pretend it didn't happen, to convince yourself that maybe it's not as bad as it feels. But here's the thing. Every time you ignore disrespect, you're not erasing it, you're feeding it. You're teaching someone that their behavior is acceptable, that they can hurt you and still have access to you, still have the privilege of your love, your presence, your energy. Think about it like this. Imagine a child who throws a tantrum. If every time they throw that tantrum, they get the toy they want, what do you think happens next? They throw more tantrums. Not because they're evil, not because they hate you, but because they learned that the tantrum works. Human relationships are not that different. When someone disrespects you, ignores your needs, raises their voice, breaks promises, or crosses boundaries, and you continue to stay, continue to give, continue to excuse them, what are you teaching them? You're teaching them that this behavior works, that no matter how badly they treat you, you'll still be there. That's how the cycle of disrespect builds momentum. And it doesn't stop there. The more you tolerate, the deeper the cycle gets. At first, it's little things, a harsh word, a dismissive attitude, a broken promise. You excuse it because you don't want to seem dramatic. You don't want to start a fight. You don't want to lose the relationship. But then it grows. Suddenly, it's bigger lies, colder silences, bolder disrespect. And every time, your silence becomes permission. Your forgiveness becomes a green light. Your tolerance becomes an open door. And they keep walking through it because why wouldn't they? Here's what we need to understand. Respect is not taught by words alone. Respect is taught by standards. People don't just learn from what you say you want. They learn from what you allow. You can say, I deserve love, I deserve respect, I deserve honesty. But if your actions show that you'll accept less, then less is exactly what you'll get. You can't inspire someone to change by enduring their mistreatment. You inspire change by showing them that mistreatment has consequences. And the greatest consequence is losing access to you. The cycle of disrespect is dangerous because it doesn't only affect how others treat you, it affects how you treat yourself. When you keep tolerating hurtful behavior, you start believing that's the best you can get. You start shrinking your own expectations. You start adjusting your standards downward just to keep someone close. And before you even realize it, you're no longer in control of the relationship. The relationship is controlling you. It's making you believe that love is supposed to hurt, that disrespect is just a part of compromise, that silence is the price of peace. But it's not. That's not love, that's bondage. That's not compromise, that's surrender. Ask yourself this. Why do you think certain people never cross certain lines with others? Why do they never raise their voice with some, but scream at you? Why do they keep their promises with others, but break them with you? Because somewhere they learned who will let them get away with it. Somewhere they tested the boundaries and yours didn't hold. And once someone learns that lesson, they rarely unlearn it unless you force them to. You deserve more than being someone's safe space for bad behavior. You deserve more than being treated like a doormat because you're too nice to say no. Your silence does not make you noble. It makes you invisible. And being invisible in your own relationship is the deepest form of disrespect you can ever experience. Respect grows when boundaries are respected, when accountability is enforced, when dignity is non-negotiable. Disrespect grows when silence replaces truth, when forgiveness replaces accountability, when tolerance replaces standards. The cycle can only be broken when you decide that enough is enough. When you finally understand that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. When you recognize that your heart is valuable, your time is priceless, your energy is sacred, and anyone who treats it carelessly should not have access to it. The cycle of disrespect is not broken by waiting for someone else to change. It's broken when you change the rules, when you no longer reward bad behavior with your attention, your love, your forgiveness. When you start showing that there are consequences for crossing you, not by yelling, not by begging, not by explaining, but by making a decision about what you will and will not accept ever again. Because the truth is, respect isn't begged for, it's commanded. And if you don't command it, you can't complain when it doesn't come your way. For so long, we've been told that strength means endurance. That if you can endure pain, if you can survive betrayal, if you can swallow the hurt without showing it, then you are strong. But that definition of strength is flawed. That kind of strength only benefits the one who is hurting you. It keeps you stuck in cycles of suffering while they get away with it. True strength is not about how much you can take, it's about how much you refuse to accept. True strength is about redefining what it means to be powerful in your own life. I want you to imagine a woman or a man standing tall in the middle of a storm. The rain is beating down, the wind is howling, but they refuse to move, they refuse to break, and on the outside, people say, wow, they're so strong. But what if that storm never ends? What if that storm is not nature, but another person constantly disrespecting you, hurting you, taking advantage of your kindness? Standing still in that storm doesn't make you strong, it makes you stuck. The real strength would be in walking away from the storm altogether, in choosing peace over pain, in deciding that your worth is not up for debate. Strength is not silence. Strength is not pretending. Strength is not staying just because you're afraid of being alone. Strength is when you can look at someone you love, someone you've given so much to, and still say, I deserve better than this. That's courage. That's power. That's when strength becomes liberation instead of imprisonment. We live in a world where too often people applaud endurance and call it bravery. They say, she's so strong, she stayed no matter what he did. Or, he's so strong, he took all that disrespect and still kept giving. But let's be honest, that's not strength, that's conditioning. That's years of being told you're supposed to accept whatever comes your way. That's fear disguised as loyalty. And it's time to unlearn it, because every time you choose to endure mistreatment, you are shrinking the definition of your own value. Redefining strength means shifting the narrative. It means saying, I'm not strong because I stayed through the pain. I'm strong because I knew when to walk away from it. It means understanding that your heart, your mind, your soul are not punching bags for someone else's frustrations, insecurities, or immaturity. It means honoring yourself enough to know that love without respect is not love at all. And here's something important. Walking away doesn't always mean leaving the relationship. Sometimes walking away means walking away from patterns. It means no longer engaging in arguments that go in circles. It means no longer excusing behavior that repeats itself over and over. It means no longer lowering your standards just to keep the peace. Walking away is about reclaiming control over your own choices, your own boundaries, your own happiness. Strength is not about proving your resilience to others. Strength is about proving your worth to yourself. It's about standing in front of a mirror and saying, I will not be defined by what I tolerate. I will be defined by what I demand from myself. Because you teach people how to treat you by the standards you set. And if your standards are buried under endless tolerance, then don't be surprised when you are treated like you're disposable. Think about the strongest people you know. Are they the ones who endured endless pain, or are they the ones who refused to accept it? The ones who said, this stops with me. This is not my destiny. This is not what I deserve. That is strength. Having the courage to break cycles, the courage to set boundaries, the courage to risk being alone rather than being disrespected. And don't let anyone tell you that leaving is weakness. It takes far more courage to step into the unknown than to remain in the familiar pain. It takes far more strength to raise your standards than to keep lowering them. It takes far more power to choose yourself than to sacrifice yourself just to be chosen by someone else. Redefining strength is about rewriting a story you've been told. It's about recognizing that you don't have to prove your loyalty by tolerating mistreatment. You don't have to prove your love by sacrificing your dignity. You don't have to prove your patience by letting people walk all over you. Your strength is not in how long you can endure. Your strength is in how clearly you can declare, this is my worth, and I refuse to accept less. When you start living by that definition of strength, you don't just change your relationships, you change your life. You stop attracting people who only come to take, and you start attracting people who know how to give. You stop drowning in storms that were never yours to carry, and you start building a life where peace and respect are the minimum requirements. Respect doesn't begin with how others treat you. Respect begins with how you treat yourself. The way you speak to yourself, the way you set your boundaries, the way you carry yourself. It all teaches the world what they can and cannot do with you. Too often we make the mistake of waiting for others to give us respect first. We wait for them to see our worth, to acknowledge our value, to honor our presence. But here's the truth. No one can consistently treat you better than you treat yourself. If you don't believe you deserve respect, if you don't live like you deserve it, others will simply follow that lead. Choosing yourself first doesn't mean being selfish. It doesn't mean ignoring the needs of others or building walls around your heart. Choosing yourself first means understanding that you are the foundation of your own life. If the foundation is weak, everything else collapses. When you neglect yourself, when you allow yourself to be drained, when you pour into everyone else but never refill your own cup, you are sending out a silent message. I don't matter as much as you. And the world listens to that message. People will take advantage of it, knowingly or unknowingly, because you've told them you're okay with being last on the list. But let's flip that perspective. Imagine walking into a room with your head held high, not because you're arrogant, but because you know exactly who you are. Imagine setting boundaries and not apologizing for them. Imagine loving yourself so deeply that you don't need anyone else's validation to feel complete. That is what choosing yourself first looks like. It's not about ego, it's about self-respect. It's about honoring your own value so strongly that others can't help but honor it too. And here's something powerful. People treat you according to the standard you set. If your standard is low, if you accept breadcrumbs and call it a feast, then that's what you'll keep getting. But if your standard is high, if you make it clear that your time, your energy, your love are precious, then only those who truly value you will rise to meet that standard. Choosing yourself first filters out the ones who are only there to take. It protects you from the ones who confuse kindness with weakness. It ensures that your life is filled with people who uplift you, not drain you. We need to break the myth that putting yourself first is a betrayal of others. The opposite is true. When you choose yourself, when you protect your peace, when you guard your heart, you actually become a better friend, a better partner, a better parent, a better human being. Because you are no longer giving from a place of emptiness. You're no longer sacrificing your soul just to keep the illusion of connection. Instead, you're giving from a place of fullness, from a place of strength, from a place of authenticity. Choosing yourself first also means not begging for love, not chasing respect, not lowering your standards just to avoid being alone. It means realizing that being alone is far better than being surrounded by people who make you feel lonely. It means understanding that your worth doesn't come from how much others need you, but from how deeply you value yourself. Because when you value yourself, you stop attaching your identity to how others see you. You stop letting their behavior define your worth. You stop depending on their validation to feel alive. And let's be clear, choosing yourself first is not always easy. It requires courage. It requires walking away from relationships that you once thought you couldn't live without. It requires standing firm in your boundaries, even when people call you selfish, even when they try to guilt you back into your old patterns. But remember this, every time you choose yourself, you're teaching the world a lesson. You are teaching them that you are not available for disrespect. You are teaching them that your heart is not a playground for their carelessness. You are teaching them that your time, your love, your energy are privileges, not guarantees. Choosing yourself first is also about rewriting the voice inside your head. That inner critic that says, you're not enough, you're too much, you don't deserve better. That voice is not truth, it's programming. It's the echo of every time you were made to feel small. And if you don't silence it, the world will amplify it. But when you start speaking to yourself with love, with patience, with respect, that's when everything shifts. Because if you wouldn't allow someone else to call you worthless, why should you allow yourself to? So ask yourself, how are you treating yourself? Do you value your own presence? Do you honor your own boundaries? Do you love yourself enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't? Because the truth is, the moment you start choosing yourself, the world has no choice but to adjust. They will either rise to meet your standard or they will fall away. And either way, you win. Because choosing yourself first is not about losing others. It's about never losing yourself. At the end of the day, it all comes down to this. You teach the world how to treat you. Your kindness is beautiful, but it should never be mistaken for weakness. Your silence might feel easier in the moment, but it only fuels the cycle of disrespect. Strength is not about how much pain you can endure. It's about how much courage you have to walk away from it. And real respect begins the moment you choose yourself first, unapologetically, without guilt, without fear. Life will always test your boundaries. People will push to see how much you will allow. but you have the power to decide where the line is drawn. You have the power to say, I deserve love, but I also deserve respect. I deserve kindness, but I also deserve honesty. I deserve connection, but I also deserve peace. And when you live by that standard, when you embody that truth, you stop attracting people who want to take advantage of you and start inviting people who see your worth and rise to meet it.